I'm going to show you my favorite oil painting technique because it is absolutely foolproof. So even if you are a complete beginner and you have never ever used oil before, you can do this technique and I promise you, you are going to be blown away by what you create and the quality that you're able to paint in. So I'm very excited for this. I'm going to basically be showing you the underpainting today. This painting is done in 3 layers. And this first underpainting really sets you up for success because you're establishing all your values and you're not really having to mix color. You're not having to struggle with the form because with the subtractive method, it's easy to arrive at that form. So I'm very excited to show you this. Now, I have this medium that I made. This is very, very simple. All it is solvent. I use soy thin solvent because it's not toxic. Linseed oil, which is non-toxic, is mixed into this solvent. 1 part linseed oil to 6 parts solvent. So that's the formula. You can make your own. And what that does is it will thin my paint for this underpainting, but the linseed oil will make it dry slower. If I only use solvent by itself, it would dry too quickly and I wouldn't be able to subtract. I also have all of these subtraction tools. So I have Q-tips, I have this subtractive tool, I have these sponges. These are just makeup sponges. And if you get going in this technique, you'll discover all kinds of things that you can use to subtract. So the colors I'm using is a transparent yellow, a raw umber, which is semi-transparent, transparent Prussian blue, transparent alizarin crimson, and an ivory black. So I'm mostly going to be using blue, black, brown. This is my source here. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my brush pretty loaded up with that medium. So I'm going to get this Prussian blue here and a little bit of black, kind of make this blue black. And I'm going to just work in this corner over here. And I'm just putting a decent amount of oil paint using that medium I talked about to thin the paint. And I can still see my drawing underneath. So I pre-drew this. Now you don't have to draw first. Sometimes I don't draw first and I just go for it. And other times I do. I'm also gonna be doing this in parts. Sometimes on a smaller painting, I just do the whole thing. I just cover the whole thing. But because it's bigger, I am gonna do it in parts. Okay, so you just get a big brush, cover your painting, easy breezy. I will just do the whole top. Now, if you get it too watery, meaning too thinned out, it'll start crawling down. And then you'll know that you did it too thin. So you don't want it runny, you don't want it crawling down, just thinned out so you can still see your drawing underneath and not so thick that it's completely covered up and not so thin that you don't have a value there. Now, this really will speed up your process for painting because you are kind of killing the white and establishing your values right in the beginning. So I like to start with the makeup sponges because they really like pull out a lot. And I'm going for like my lightest value. So if that white spot is right across the beak and right above that hump, so like right about there. And so I'm just pulling out what I see there. And you don't have to get it like super duper crazy accurate. You're just getting it close enough. And we got a little flower there. And another thing I really love about this technique is it kind of forces you to not be too precious, you know, and just kind of work quickly and think of this as just like your sketch or an underpainting.
Elli, are you at all concerned about losing the drawing that you have underneath?
No, I don't know if you can see it on camera. I can see it perfect.
Did you explain what you did for the drawing underneath?
No, I projected this with a projector and I just used a permanent marker. Because if you don't use a permanent marker, what will happen is your drawing will get lost. Now, if you overdo it, you can just kind of put it back, see? So it's very forgiving. And if you mess up, you just add the paint again. Now you can also kind of experiment and like see how with these sponges you can get like cool water effects here. Just kind of playing around with different water effects there. It's very relaxing. It's very low pressure. It's just super fun. It puts you in a really good creative space in your mind. And I found with art, a huge skill that you want to develop is what is happening in your mind when you're creating. Because a lot of people think it's like, all drawing skill or 10 years of art school or something. And it's not. It's how you think. It's how you approach things. It's being in a very relaxed state. If you're all uptight and worried about stuff and feeling like you're messing everything up and you're no good and why you're probably not even a real artist or anything like that, it's pretty difficult to paint well. So I love how this technique takes all the pressure off and you can just kind of zone out and like have fun. This is an old master's technique, by the way. This is how Rembrandt painted. This is how Caravaggio painted, Artemisia Gentileschi. Almost all of the Baroque painters painted this way. They also used projectors. They used camera obscuras, which are basically projectors. They used mirrors and lights and all kinds of things to get their image on large spaces.
So one thing that you consistently mention throughout your teaching is that values are so important. Could you explain a little bit why starting with value in this first stage sets the foundation for the painting?
You can paint any subject with any color, change it up completely, all kinds of crazy brushstrokes, whatever you want. You can be as expressive as you want with it. But if you want it to look representational, you have to nail the values. The values have to be correct. It's the value relationship. If you're making it higher value than your source or lighter value, that's okay, or darker value, but the relationship, meaning the value that's here is my lightest value and the value here is my darkest value. And then the middle value is like maybe right in here or under here or this right here. A bright red is a middle value. So knowing what your middle values are and knowing what your lightest value is and what your darkest value is really all that it is required. As long as you have it pretty close in the ballpark, it's gonna look fantastic.
Are there any tricks that you know of to help students who struggle with seeing values see it a bit more clearly?
Yeah, you can put things in grayscale on your phone. You can also squint your eyes. By squinting your eyes, it drowns out the color. It kind of grays everything out. So I squint my eyes a lot, and that helps you see true value.
There's a lot happening in that source. Do you ever find that daunting at the beginning?
It isn't daunting to me because I've done it so many times, but I can understand why it could be for some. What I have found is that feeling overwhelmed when you are painting rarely get you a good painting. You have to control your mind in that overwhelm. And a lot of that is just experience and confidence. And it's like, okay, I've done that before. I've made sort of a chaotic painting that has a lot going on look good. So I know what I'm doing now and I can do it again. Subject matter like cities or these turtles with all this detail and little dots and little things going on can overwhelm people. So I think you can build up to it. You don't have to like make your first oil painting something super crazy complex. You can build up to it. That's why in the mastery program, we kind of force you to do some of those subject matters like a crowd of people, a cityscape, and we teach you the tricks of how to handle something that is overwhelming. And if you look at it, I'm kind of tackling sort of one area at a time, and I'm using these techniques of what I just did here is I caught the pattern. I'm emulating a pattern that I see without having to like follow every single line. So I think understanding how to paint the pattern of light and dark. So if you're doing bushes or trees, you're not painting every leaf, you're capturing the pattern or the sort of the cadence of how the light is hitting. It helps you to be able to paint complex things that a lot of people would shy away from and be able to tackle it and do it well.
One thing that I'm noticing too, just as I watch you paint, is how often your head is swiveling back and forth from the source in the painting. And when I'm counting, it's on average around 3 to 4, every 3 seconds, you're looking back and forth, and sometimes it's every second. Head is kind of just going back and forth, looking at the source, back to what you're painting. And I think a lot of times artists, they get lost in the details and then they start painting what they imagine, which is fun in the moment, but not when you take a step back and you realize, oh my gosh, I've deviated super far from the source and now I have to do some reconstructive surgery, so.
Yeah, such a good point, Jake. I mean, that is gold right there. What Jake just said, that's worth this entire video going on. I normally am like this with my source. So I'm just moving my head back and forth from this spot to this spot, and I don't have to go so far. It's going along pretty quickly, I think. And it's a big painting. So to get your first layer, all the values, all the form in just an hour and a half, I mean, that's really fantastic. Because I meet people all the time that tell me it takes them, 6 months to complete an oil painting. And you're gonna have to charge, what, $30,000 at least
Or be really good at selling prints.
Yeah.
Elli, are you wiping off your subtraction tool a lot? Or?
Yeah, I am. I'm not showing that, but I am. And, we teach this actually as the very first lesson in the mastery program. If you don't know what that is, it's our 1-year program that will teach you how to become a professional artist in 1 year. And the very first assignment is a subtractive bird. And we have tons of students, like hundreds, that sell their very first painting in this. And we actually have a how to sell your first painting guide. And whenever anybody follows it, they sell their work. So it is a really cool technique that gets you a very, very quick win. And I still use it today. So you'll notice that each tool sort of subtracts a bit differently. Like these Q-tips give you sort of a mid-tone value and not exactly the stark kind of value that the subtraction tool. Sometimes on certain subject matter, I might not even use the subtraction tool because it does kind of create a little bit more of a line. And sometimes I want very soft transitions. So it really depends on the subject matter and having a variety of tools and experimenting with them. Also, if it starts to dry on you and you need something really, really white, you can dip it in your solvent. It'll pull even more out. I could even dip my sponge if you really want to pull it out. So even if it starts to dry on you, like if you're not very quick at it and it's taking you 3, 4, 5 hours to subtract, you have some time. Now you can go like full on and make this thing like hyper realistic if you really put time and effort into it. I've done some underpaintings like that where I really put a lot into it. For now, I feel like it's okay, and I'm gonna move on to this one. I also want to highlight a technique that I didn't show you. I do this more with portraits, not turtles, because the turtles have a lot of line. But I teach a similar technique in a portrait class. So one thing that you can do is use brushes. So I'm just wetting this brush with solvent. So it's a clean brush that's wet with solvent. And I can come in and kind of move and subtract some pigment this way. So I can get interesting texture. And then I'm just cleaning it in my rag here So I'm only basically using a clean brush and it's picking up that pigment. That is also a great technique, especially when you want softer transitions, or you want to like do some cool, I don't know, textural things, or like I said, for portraits, I do it quite a bit. There's really endless techniques. You'll discover your own, and there's really no rules, you know? You can use paper towels, you can kind of stamp, you can, just so many things you can do. I typically work back to front, so that's why I'm kind of tackling the background. And then what remains is that turtle claw. No, I don't know. What is it? A fin. It's a fin. It's not a claw. And it just kind of goes better when you work back to front. You can do this technique with just about any subject matter. We have a course called How to Create a Beautiful Portrait Every Time. So it's a portrait class. It's very similar. There's sort of a blocking in method that we teach you in the beginning and then combined with subtraction. So it's sort of the kissing cousin to this technique, very similar with a little bit of a difference. And it is such a great way to do a portrait that, like I said, is pretty foolproof. People that take that class are just really love it because they find just really great results. And it teaches you how to mix skin tones, how to really model and see form in the anatomy of the portrait, even like how to do details like eyelashes and hair. And it's a really fantastic class.
I highly recommend taking that class if you're thinking about the mastery program. Super transformative. I remember my very first portrait that I did in the mastery program myself. I used that technique and I actually sold it. So it was
I remember that.
Pretty realistic. Yeah, I painted Morgan Freeman. It was loved. And I felt loved.
Man, this subtractive tool today has really helped me out. I have to remember, subtractive tool for turtles is a must.
So a few people were wondering, what does Galkyd actually do? It basically speeds up the drying time of oils.
And it adds viscosity to your paint. It thins it. It makes it more transparent. So you use it for glazing. This is a really fantastic technique. Like I said, we teach it in the mastery program. We teach it actually in multiple different ways because there's a lot of variations. This is sort of the bare bones version of this, but there's a lot of nuance and variations that you can do and rearranging the different order of things. So this will dry overnight. It takes probably fully 8 hours to completely dry. And so when this is fully dry, the next stage is to start adding some opaques and really, bring the painting forward. So thanks for being here with us. We will see you next time on our channel.